everybody, and welcome back to Magical Journey. I'm your host, Daniel Cahoon, and tonight, I gotta tell you, I've got a really good show planned for you guys tonight. Uh, if you're watching on Facebook or Twitch, welcome in. Uh, you are seeing us on your side. We have on the YouTube side, we have live chat though, and we have cookies, so you should come join us over here. But anyway, beside that, tonight I want to before we get started, I want to do just a little bit of housekeeping. Um, First of all, let's talk about something really, really good to know, and that's magicaljourney.com, where you can find all of the updates on Magical Journey, what I'm doing, what is coming up next when it comes to the channel, the brand, all the things on magicaljourney.com. I would encourage you guys to also pay attention to the little links on there. If you have had a paranormal experience, encounter that you want to share with me, there's a really great way of being able to email me on there and connect about that. And also Magical Merch, which is a really, really great way to help me promote the show and help us grow. It's very important. Um, and I know it is not for everybody, but I do have a Patreon community, and you are really, really encouraged and welcome to join that. It is a way to be able to not only grow with us, but to learn a lot of cool stuff too. And that is pretty much where I'm going to keep the housekeeping tonight. I got a show lined up for you guys, and I've got a friend of mine who I have not really had a chance to reach out to for a while on tonight to talk to us about a place that is very magical and mystical and mythical. And it is a place that many of us have at one time or another said, I really want to go there and I really want to experience things and I want to click my heels 3 times. And that is the Salem, Massachusetts area and areas connected to it. And tonight, to do that, I want to bring Jen Sullivan on to talk to us. Hey, hey.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. And I'm really excited to discuss not only Salem, but other parts of Massachusetts
Yes.
that really have a lot of unique history, as well as just a lot of spirituality and mysticism and witchcraft that happens in the great communities that we have.
Right, right, exactly. I mean, there's so much. So tell us a little bit about you and tell us a little bit about what you do, because you have a really, really deep itinerary of things that you work with and work on.
I do. So, my name is Jennifer Sullivan. I am actually located on what would be considered the South Shore of, which is south of Boston. I grew up south of Boston and spent a lot of time in Salem and all the areas around it. I actually am in the Plymouth area. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of Plymouth or Plymouth Rock, and maybe even taken a field trip to go see that at some point and might have been disappointed by the size of it. It is not as big. So it's not as big as we demand it and we think it's going to be. We always tell people to go see it. It's kind of like a running joke where we're like, yeah, you gotta see it. It's the best thing ever. And yeah, but I am a firewalk facilitator. I am also a psychic medium, animal communicator, astrologer, and I also help facilitate a lot of local events. Anything from um, tarot based events to fire ceremonies to fire walks, retreats, and it's amazing. I'm really blessed to be able to be in such an active community that is
Yeah.
always open.
Yeah, you guys, I remember just like a few times trying to reach out to you before, and you're like, oh, I got this going on this week and something. You guys are forever busy with stuff that you're doing, which is great. As part, I mean, community building is really part of it, right?
It really is. And it's so interesting because, during COVID times, we all gravitated to online community. And that was really unique because we had spaces like YouTube, like TikTok blowing up. And, that's how you and I initially connected. So
Right,
we had this ability to really expand our connections in a really different and unique way and bring, whether it be witchcraft, spirituality, different modalities to the surface to sit there and actually experiment with them and share them and really spread that word. I mean, it came with some other issues as well, like anything does. However, it really is amazing. When I was thinking about it earlier today, and I thought, wow, how cool is it that we got to connect with so many witches and healers and spiritual people in such a wild time. It's
right,
really amazing when you think about it.
right. It was definitely, it was the best of times and it was the worst of times.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong. I kind of make light of the situation somewhat at times, but honestly, you know, I mean, that's really where, I got my start. That's really where Magical Journey really was born at, so for it to progress to where it is now, to a podcast, which is hopefully encouraging and educating and, growing people, is really, it's phenomenal if you think about it, because I had no clue what I was doing when I first signed up. Like when I first got on there, I would do like stupid little videos, like, like I would put one of those dumb filters on and some like soundbite and try to get into character or whatever, and
Yep.
that was literally the extent of my talent at that time. Yeah. But now, right, right. That's the thing, was like literally, I mean, we have, and there's so much really strong young talent out there on not only on that platform, but other platforms now too. Here, it's a really great platform. Um, and so, but yeah, you're right. It was definitely, it was unique. It was
It
very
really
unique.
was. It really
Mm,
was.
yeah, not unlike the area that you are at.
Yes.
So let's let's camp on that for a minute, because this is a big deal. So first of all, I've been just blown away and fascinated by the idea of firewalking for a while, because to me that is like, I don't even I don't even have a word for it. It's like just beyond anything I can fathom. Like, like I couldn't imagine turning to my best friend and going, "Hey, you want to go for a firewalk today?" But it's very therapeutic, and there's a lot of healthy um, spiritual, yeah, to it. I'm not really sure what word I'm missing there. Um,
It really encompasses a lot. So my personal journey with firewalking is really fascinating. It's definitely one of my favorite things. And if you had asked me 10 years ago or even 8 years ago and said, hey, would you ever go to a fire walk? I would sit there and probably be like, no, you're out of your mind. And think that anyone who does it is crazy. So I was definitely in that camp. And I had the opportunity to actually attend a private fire walk. It was it was held at a healer's house, and
mm,
she had a small group together, and she said, "Hey, you're invited." And she, and about, I think, 6 or 7 of us went, and it was the most insane, magical experience I ever had. It was just wild. The facilitator, who is a friend of mine, Travis Preston of Wolfpack Healing, he and I definitely have some past lives together, and this was how we ended up connecting in this lifetime. He was the facilitator of the firewalk. I did the firewalk. I was terrified. I was driving there trying to talk myself out of it, saying this is nuts. I didn't tell anybody I was doing it because I knew they would all try and talk me out of it, like, family, friends, whatever. And I went, and there were points where I cried. There were points where I was angry. There was points where I was excited. But I remember I was scared getting there. But once that fire was lit, and Travis really, through his training, really has designed a way to help people get to walking over the coals. And he took us through, shared some really personal stories, led us through some different really empowering exercises, building the fire, setting the fire. Then by the time we got to walk across those coals, it was like you were ready to do it. You were just like, oh, I've done all this other stuff. And a lot was really reflecting on what we do in our daily lives. I mean, if you really think about it, especially in the last 4 or 5 years that we've all been in, we walk through coals on a daily basis. We walk through fire every single day in some way, shape, or form. That is the truth, and more so now than ever. So when you really think about all the things that you've survived, all the things that you've been through, that's like part of your personal firewalk in a way. And so by the time I walked over those coals and thought about all that, and and brought that up, I thought, I can do this. Why can't I do this? And that first firewalk, I walked multiple times, and it was so empowering. And when I left, I thought to myself, I definitely want to do this again. And at the time, I really thought I was going to just do it for myself, maybe like, oh, I'll go attend one once a year, something along those lines. And then fast forward a couple of years, I was, at the time when I experienced my first firewalk, I was actually judging horse shows professionally, full time. I was in the equine industry. All my psychic stuff was like kind of behind the scenes. People knew, but it wasn't really promoted.
Mm-hmm.
It would be, can you come help this horse? Can you give me a tarot reading? Can you tell me what planets are making me angry right now? All that kind of stuff. So, but it wasn't promoted. I was judging horse shows all over the country and actually all over the world. And then, COVID happened and everything halted. During that time, what ended up happening was a lot of people signed up for readings. And I had kind of gotten the message that I was going to be switching over into doing my spiritual work full time, and the horse shows not full time. And I was very successful as a judge, and I had developed a good reputation. And it was terrifying for me to sit there and go, well, is this going to be sustainable? Can I make money?
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to do this? And I really always thought my spiritual journey was just kind of mine, and I was just doing what I need to do. And, if I had to go to a house to clear out a house, that was great, or whatever. And I was active in the spiritual community, but more so as a participant and not like a practitioner in that sense. So I get this message and I'm terrified, and 2021 rolls around. Things are active, but it's still kind of slow for a lot of the horse shows. And then 2022, and fun fact, we usually book about 6 months to a year in advance for horse shows.
Oh, wow.
So in 2021, I'm already booking for 2022. And so now I'm booking for 2022. I'm back to the old hustle, the old grind. I have in my calendar every week, I got a horse show. And I thought, I'm going to be super grounded. I'm going to stay home 1 week a month. And I was like, wow, look at me go. And I realized when I got back on the road in 2022, that wasn't what I wanted to do. I had bought a house and I had just moved in. I hadn't even spent the summer in my new house. And I was driving home from Ohio, actually, judging a show in Ohio. And it was the most beautiful sunset, but there was some kind of traffic. I don't know why. Who knows? I remember being really frustrated because I was supposed to fly and my flight got canceled last minute. So last minute, I had to jump into my car and just book it like 17 hours. And it was wild. So I'm driving home now after judging 4 days and I'm exhausted and tired. And I have a 17-hour drive home and I couldn't wait to get home. So I'm on my way home and I look up at the sky because I'm frustrated. And I literally said, spirit, God, I was like, I don't even care who's up there anymore. Ancestors, whoever. I was like, I didn't even know if there was anybody at that point. Like, is this just all in my head? I think we've all had that experience too. And I said, if you want me to do this, if you want me to leave this horse show stuff behind, you need to give me a really clear path on what I need to do. Well, and I was pissed. I mean, I was swearing. I had my moon roof open and I had my hand up and I yell at my spirit team a lot. That's kind of how we communicate. We're very blunt with each other. And I'm like, I am your boss. You don't have a job without me. Wow. Yeah, they took on a challenge. So I said that. And the next morning, I get home at like 3 a.m. and I wake up and I get this clear message of reach out to Travis. And I thought, well, that's pretty good. and we had stayed connected over the years. I'd been to a couple other events of his, we'd messaged each other, whatever. But it was very like ships passing in the night. So I reached out to him and he had posted something about a firewalk training. So I reached out and asked and said, hey, I don't know if I'd want to do that this year, but maybe next year. And he said, well, if you're really feeling the call, feel the call. And so so I picked up the phone and we talked on the phone and he said, I really feel, like you're being called to this. And we had a really nice long conversation. And I said, let me sit with it because it was literally starting the next day, the training. So I sat there and was like, oh boy, here we go. And I went and I sat with it. I called him back and I said, yep, sign me up. And so the next morning I was off to New Hampshire and spent a week in firewalk training to become a facilitator. And it was one of the best weeks of my life. With the most challenging weeks, like literally probably one of the most challenging weeks. But we had amazing participants. And they're friends. They're more than friends. They're family. They're family.
See, I love that. I love whenever it becomes a family thing. It's no longer an acquaintance or, like you said, friends. It's now family, and I love that. I love the fact that people can bond in that way over the practice over anything. I mean, we're people. We're human beings. So being able to bond over those things is really important. And the fact that you grow a community that way, to me, it's very comforting and very fun.
And the beauty about firewalking is you're never forced to walk. That's the beauty of firewalking. So even if anybody ever has the experience to just go and they're like, I don't know if I'm going to walk, it's okay. First off, no facilitator is going to just have you arrive and say, hey, here's a hotbed of coals, go knock yourself out. There's a process. We're not just like, hey, we're going to sit over here. You guys want to show when you're all set. It's not like that. It's wow. We take it seriously. it's spiritual. It's empowering. It's very empowering. And I've had the honor to watch really phenomenal people walk across those coals or even not walk across the coals. And it changes their lives. It really does.
I
It's
imagine.
it's the process and the idea is that each time you walk those coals, you're transmuting something.
Hmm.
We know in the witchy community and in the spiritual community that fire transmutes. And
Right.
it transmutes in love. It really does. So the fire's very loving. It might feel a little hot sometimes, but it is loving. And that's, yes, it's brave to even say no, because you don't know if that person maybe has never had that opportunity. That person, oh, thanks, Sabrina. I love Sabrina. Shout out to Sabrina. And it's really an amazing process. And so it's designed to be empowering. If we were sitting there like drill sergeants yelling at you to go across the coals, that wouldn't exactly be empowering. So it is in your hands. It's your journey. We're just there. And if there is a fear factor, we will help you decide if that's something that you're able to potentially, hi Taylor, to be able to sit there and conquer that fear. Or maybe it is about you taking a step back and witnessing and observing. And maybe it isn't the day to walk the coals. Maybe you go and you watch and you just celebrate everybody. And then you say, you know what, next time I'm going to go do it. It's part of whatever your journey is supposed to be. That's the beauty
Right.
of it.
Right. That's very true. Very well put. And one of the things I want to encourage you guys, so if you've had an experience with firewalking and and you want to share it, leave me a comment below about your experience and how it went and how it impacted you, because I would love to hear about that. Um, there are some things that you the firewalking is definitely, I can't even imagine that it to me would be so transformative in so many different ways and so impactful because it is something that's very unique. Um, but there's a lot of things about the community, about the energy of the area, about the history. I mean, I could go on and on and on. The list is just amazing
It really
um,
is.
with the energy of the area where you're at, and in a sense, you a lot of the information that we have on it is literally based on you know, what the community, the media and so forth, what they want us to know about the area. We don't really know a lot of factual stuff until we go there and experience it ourselves.
It's true. I mean, as I'm sure everyone knows, and I do want to circle back at some point to Pamela's question, but one of the things that I think is really important is that we all know that Salem in particular is this like a destination, especially during the month of October.
Mhm.
And that is the wildest time. And it is kind of a running joke here that, people who live in the area try to avoid Salem during that time period. Because we have the ability to go any other time. I've been there in the summer, I've been there in the fall, I've been there in the middle of the winter. And and in the spring, it's really a beautiful area. The cobblestones, the historic buildings, the ocean, the restaurants, the bookstores. It's really an incredible place. And I do highly encourage anyone to visit it at some point if they have ever wanted to, but haven't necessarily gotten the chance. I'm still trying to get you out here and then I can take you around. Just saying, the door's always open.
Right, right. Yeah, I really want to go there. I really do, to experience it and to get the opportunity to see for myself that which we seem to always be discouraged to see. Um, because I feel like it, when, I mean, you think about it, and we're talking about an area that literally the entire history of our country is kind of built around
Yeah.
in a sense. And, and there's just this seemingly like endless amount of uh, experience that people have had with the area, with the people, with the communities, with engaging with the energy there. I mean, there's so much energy there, and people have come back and they've talked about that frequently.
It really is. And even when you think about just the area specifically that I'm located in on the South Shore in the Plymouth area, it's literally people came here for religious freedom. I mean, we have that
Mhm.
old Quaker energy. Yeah, it's not ideal. They definitely had their strictness, let's put it that way. However, um, it's really amazing when you think about just how people came in. And we also have a really rich history, particularly down here, where, and we all know this throughout this entire country, that, we kind of came in and took it over. Um, and so the Wampanoag community, which is one of the predominant tribes in this area, are still incredibly active. They're really amazing, amazing people, and they really want people to learn about the history of the natives, learn about the Wampanoag tribe, come attend their events. And there is an incredible powwow every year on Cape Cod that is really just unbelievable. There's a lot of other powwows too in Western Mass and in New Hampshire. So we have very active native communities. And I think that's one of the biggest things within the spiritual communities here is I feel like now we're starting to bridge that gap more. And
Mhm.
I think it's a really important facet of it, because it's, we want to respect, we want to honor. Even fire walking itself, it is, it has a lot of indigenous ties throughout, throughout centuries, to many different cultures, European cultures, Mayan cultures. There's so much there. And there were specific native tribes that really were connected to fire walking. So even, for me to run a fire walk, I want to make sure they know that I'm bringing the medicine in a good way. That's kind of the phrase we use. And that's important to make sure that our local communities and our dear Native brothers and sisters know that we are bringing medicine in a good way, and that we're not just like making a joke out of it or making a party out of it, and that we do know that this is sacred and that this is a gift. It really is. And all of it is the herbs, the trees, the plants, and everything that we have here, the oceans. I mean, I can go to a forest. I literally am surrounded by cranberry bogs
Oh,
in my
wow.
area, and they're magical. I mean, I literally go like hug trees every day. And my friend Taylor, that's been in the comments, he and I go walking quite a bit. So it's really a magical area. We see the most incredible birds, eagles, owls,
Mm.
egrets, herons. We're surrounded by nature here. And I can go to a town forest, a state forest 5 minutes away, or I can hop on and 15 minutes away be at the ocean. It's a really incredible area. And like anything, it's how do you take care of the land? How do you even honor the land that you're the steward of? I don't even like saying that I own this house and this property that I'm on, because I mean, really, do I? Like, no. I mean, according to a piece of paper, I do. I just feel like I'm the steward of it for this moment in time, really. And so therefore it's really being mindful of that. And whether it's, you're picking up trash, whether you're leaving offerings, whether, but be respectful too, because there are certain lands in these areas, particularly down on the Cape, that are very sacred to the Wampanoag people, and you don't want to be, doing something that they could perceive as being disrespectful. So I feel like in these particular areas, it's really important to make sure that you are checking in with the historical stuff. I mean, I've even made those mistakes before
Mm.
where, once I learned the history of a particular place and whatnot, I thought, ooh, maybe I shouldn't do that there. Or maybe let's rechannel this event a little bit. So, yeah, I love the word steward too, because I mean, that's really what we are. We're here in these forms for
Right.
a short period of time in the grand scheme of things. And so we're stewards of wherever we are, and I don't care if it's a piece of land, I don't care if it's an apartment, I don't care if it's a house, a boat, a van, you're doing the van life thing. So it's really amazing. But yeah, we have a lot of energy here, and we have a lot of spirit energy here as well.
Yeah.
That's a big part of this area. And if you're connected in on a mediumship level, you probably have had some experiences.
Right, right. That's one of the things I think, I mean, we're all familiar with, obviously, the history of the area to a point, and to a point we're all familiar with the lore, and you know, everybody's, the tourist industry does a lot to keep us fascinated by, the history, uh, the various things that, that prompt people to want to go to Salem every year, for the celebration and so forth. But the thing, the thing that really sticks out to me about all of the area, is that there's this undercurrent of all this stuff, that we've kind of like prioritized it as over the years, but it has a life and a history and an energy all of its own. And I think that is one of the things that so many of us really don't, we don't always comprehend. That we don't always comprehend the majesty and the power, behind those things. So tell us a little bit about your experience with just, you dealing with, I guess, the cultural shock almost that people tend to have when it comes to Massachusetts and to the area and to its people, because I'm sure there's quite a bit of, I'm sure the stories are never ending about culture shock that people go through when they see what they're really looking at there.
Absolutely. So it's really kind of funny. And anyone that's like on TikTok right now, Boston talk, it has been very big over the last few days. That's been a big thing popping up. And, you know, there's this running joke that Massachusetts people in particular, when you look at like New England, are their own breed. And there's kind of this, we really are. So there's this running joke about Massachusetts people as a whole that we are kind but not nice necessarily. And so, meaning that, like, if you break down on the side of the road, we're going to come help you. We might make fun of you the entire time and be like, why don't you have AAA? What do you mean you don't know how to change a tire? What's wrong with you? It's these big things. You'll see these these skits on like Saturday Night Live and stuff. One is like the Dunkin' Donuts. It's
Oh yeah.
hilarious. It is the most accurate thing on the planet. Not even kidding. America doesn't run on Dunkin'. Massachusetts runs on Dunkin'. It is a legit thing, and and iced coffee year round. That's a really big deal. So there's that aspect of it. And that's the thing. So it's like we will always help each other, we will always support each other. And we might want to fight at certain points, like just as a whole. But if something happens, we're like, what do you mean that happened to that person? You could really not love a person, but you're going to go to bat for them. So that's just like Massachusetts and Boston as a whole. Yeah, you got that right. Yeah. Sabrina After Dark. That's what we nicknamed Sabrina when hers comes out. So we so so it is this
Wow.
running joke. And so it really is. So some people come to Massachusetts and they really are like, everyone's mean, everyone's blunt, everyone's yelling at each other. And I'm like, no, that's just how we talk. And so it's, well, gotta use it. It's true. It's a very big thing. I used to, when I traveled full time judging, I would know instantly when I was on a plane full of people that were true Bostonians. I and when they were true Bostonians, I knew. I'd be like, I am here with my people. And I could always tell because it's like they'd be pushing each other off the plane. They'd be like, what do you mean you can't reach your bag? And they'd be like, don't worry, I got it for you. And like, and then they bring it down and you just be like, thanks, bro. I appreciate it. So it's it's a unique area for sure. And so I think there is this idea behind Massachusetts that the people can be a little off-putting. And then now you throw the witchiness into it when you come in, and that can be a little jarring, especially I think sometimes people get really excited and they want that experience. And God
Mhm.
bless everybody. I have friends that work in these shops in Salem, that own these shops in Salem, and let me tell you, they make their money. It is like their Christmas. The month of October is their Christmas. But I mean, those readers, they are reading nonstop. They don't even have time to go to the bathroom, eat a sandwich, nothing. It is incredible.
Mhm.
And to see the craftsmanship of these people that really are tuned into their craft, whether it's making oils, whether it's making kits for people, answering questions, and really knowing the herbs or different practices and really being able to provide education is really amazing. So there are definitely shops that I would recommend potentially over others, depending on perhaps what where you're at in your magical journey and your witchcraft journey. But any shop is great. Like, you're going to have a good time. You're going to see neat stuff. And it's really a magical place. And even on the South Shore, even as you get out of Salem, whether it's Boston, I mean, Boston, just walking around in Boston has so much history, the museums, everything. It's really incredible. And then, you go further down to the South Shore where I'm at, we have crystal shops and witchy shops within like 15, 20 minutes. I could probably go to like 6 or 7 different shops, which is
Wow.
really amazing. And they all are unique, and they all have their own communities, whether they're doing things online, whether they're doing in-person events. It's really amazing. And they're educated people that own them. They know their stuff, and I would never not recommend them, because if someone says to me, hey, I need some herbs for this, I'm like, go there. Or they're like, I'm looking for witchy books, I'm like, go here. So we're really fortunate to have this energy. We really
Yeah.
are. But there's a denseness too here. There can be a real denseness, and some
Mhm.
people really struggle with that. The winters can be challenging. You can feel the energy in the air. You can. Can I crash on your couch? I love it. I love
So,
it. Party in
w-
Boston.
one of the things that that we are all familiar with, unfortunately because of the media, the tourist industry, and so forth, there, is the history of the Salem witch trials and all of that, and there's a lot of misinformation we have, a lot of misconceptions that we have about, that time period and what actually went on. And, I think there's it's, um, it's kind of a hurdle that is really hard for some people to get over, because, of course, we're all given the same story about how, like, you know, um, witches were all like tortured horribly, and they were like, you know,
Yeah,
cast
I mean,
into, and just horrible, horrible stories that were actually told. And while those things there's truth to them, I think one of the things that is really important for us to understand too is that there's more to the story. Okay, there's more to the story.
there is. And I think too, a lot of times, because of things that happened during the century where all the witch trials and everything was getting really amped up in Europe, I feel like some of those stories kind of got wrapped up. And so a lot of people assume certain things that might have occurred or actually did occur during those times happened here as well.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's really sad when you think about it. It's really, it's a lot of it like anything else. It had to do with accusing slaves. It had to do with accusing women that,
Mhm.
maybe were doulas or created herbal potions, and just accusations in general.
Right.
There's it's just a lot of accusations. I mean, which is scary. And you can go to Salem and you can see the you can actually go and see the places where the trials took place. There is the Witchcraft Museum. There is the historical sites. They have, the cemetery. They
Mhm.
have these things. They actually have a wall with the names. Yes, they really were all healers. And let's face it, a lot of people that actually got accused of witchcraft really weren't witches, too. Some of them were just average people that pissed the wrong person off, and therefore they got accused. And there was a lot of hysteria back then, and there was a lot of misinformation and just a lot of unknowns and superstitions. Yeah, there's a lot. I have to look up the names. I actually have a book that, let me grab it. And it's a great book. I actually highly recommend it if you want a read. I believe that there's actually an audio version too. Um, it is called The Six Women of Salem. And this book actually talks about it's the untold story of the accused, their accusers, in the Salem
Mhm.
witch trials. So it is a great book. And it talks about the puppets that were found
Mhm.
or things that were accused of being puppets. It talks about they could have been dolls. Like it just goes to show the Putnams. It's really incredible. And yeah, I believe that this is available on. I believe it's available on audiobook, but it is a really good book. It took me a while to read it, because it's like 400 pages, and but there's a lot of references in it too, and a lot of pictures. It's a great read if you're really interested in the history of it, and it's fabulous. I highly recommend it if you're a book person. And it's Bridget Bishop, Mary English, Rebecca Nurse, Ann Putnam, to the minister's Indian slave, Tibuta, and Mary Warren. I think I said her name wrong, but yes, thank you. Great, yeah, great book. And I do recommend it. And it tells these stories. And like one of the women, she was a slave, and she had no, she was accused. I mean, who was going to stand up for her? Really?
Right, right.
And so I think that's the reality. And there are sites where there's a wall that's dedicated, where it has plaques for these individuals. And when you walk that, and it shows the people that were accused and that did die from these accusations. Those 6 are like the more prominent ones that are known, but there's many others. And when you walk in that space and you read those names, I mean, it's very powerful. And that is a site that a lot of people go to. And,
No doubt.
it's an experience. It's an experience. And I think there are a lot of people that come to Salem because they think it's a dog and pony show, or like it's kind of like a Disneyland. And
Yeah,
which, I mean, whatever. I mean, if they get anything from it and they, take away something, whether it's not to accuse people or whatever, I mean, then that's great. Like, but there's a lot of people that are practitioners or budding practitioners or baby witches or whatever you want to call it, that go to this area for a lot of reasons. And, if you believe in reincarnation, depending on what your practice is or anything else, there's kind of a thought process that there's this thought process of like a lot of us being kind of reincarnated here, whether it be we were here before the witch trials or after the witch trials or during the witch trials, and that we're here. So and that's a part of it too. So,
mhm.
and one of the beautiful things about the spiritual community here is that there are a lot of people that are witches, and they're also Reiki practitioners, or they're making herbal ointments or whatever, and it's fairly accepted, which is really cool.
It really is, especially given the history of the area. And, I think it's really good that we live in a time period, where we can safely and sanely, you know, be able to educate ourselves, to be able to be informed, about our past, about our history, about the things that have, you know, created the space that we know now. Um, yeah, and that's a, so many times, I think when we talk about uh, places like Salem, and we talk about the different practices that people have and so forth. I think there's a tendency for us to our minds to go a little out there, and for us to kind of go to those places that we don't normally like to explore in our mind and go, wow, imagine this, and we contemplate the things that just on a daily basis, a lot of people are mind blown by some of the things. Um, and so for me, I know when, for instance, there's, as far as the history of the area itself goes, during the time of where the revivals, the great religious revivals of the time were going on. There was so many things that came about, so many different movements that came about, so many different energies that were inspired uh, in those areas, and I think the impact that had on our history, on people, on the culture of our country, I think is very much underplayed at times. I don't think we understand how just the overall experience, how it changed the course, the path for so many people. You know, the the events, not only of the witch trials and so forth, but like I said, the other things that the Great Revival era. that spawned groups like the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was born out of the Great Revival era. So, when we think about that and we think about the Puritans and the effects that, you know, the Puritan lifestyle had on the forming of our country, especially in that area, I think it's quite amazing uh, how these things helped us to evolve over time or changed us in some way that led to what we now know as America. I mean, yeah.
It's true. And, I even think back on just my experience. Now, this is something really interesting. Fun fact about my own little life here is I am adopted. So I was adopted when I was almost 2 years old. So now imagine this, my parents, God bless them, like they must have been half out of their damn minds because they they really were. So they bought this really beautiful house after the blizzard of 78. If you're not familiar with the blizzard of 78, look that up. Talk about a cluster. And they bought this beautiful house off the ocean in a little town called Situate. And if you look at like what they paid for it back then, it's like insane. It's stupid money compared to what the houses are. I mean, they're millions there. It's insane now, but um, it's they bought this beautiful old Victorian house, and it was very much a fixer upper. But they bought this house for a song, and they move in on Halloween. They
Oh
move
no.
in on Halloween, and then they finally get the call from Catholic Charities. Now they've been on the wait list for a child for years, and they get the call. They come and they meet me. They drive into Cambridge. They sit with me for like, I don't know, an hour. And the social worker says, "Okay, so do you want her?" And they have to like make that decision, which is wild. Wild. I mean, we're talking this is early 80s. So like totally different ball game now. But they made that decision. So they come and get me the next day. They have less than 24 hours to get the house ready for a walking, talking 2-year-old that is very sassy and has a lot of opinions. And it's an old Victorian house. It's lead paint, it's radiators, it's all that stuff. So I come down and so my parents, they pick me up, they bring me home, and I go into this Victorian house, and there's somebody else in the house. There is a spirit there. There is a lady in a blue dress.
Whoa.
And I'm looking like, who's the broad in the blue dress? Like, who is this lady? Like, and like, so now these people have this young child that they don't know. Like, they literally don't know me. And I'm talking to dead people. It's crazy. And it's funny because I have this list of words that came with me from my foster parents. And I'm saying things like angel, demon, like things that kids shouldn't be saying at like a year and a half, 2 years old. Like this is not the average vocabulary of a people. And so it's one of those things that I grew up with a spirit in the house. And that was really something that taught me. For the time it was fashionable because they were a wealthy family. And the home in Situate was their summer home. There's
Mm.
actually a whole town in Wisconsin named after them, the Elys. So it's the little town of Ely. I believe they had a history with the railroads being developed. I believe. I've done a lot of research. It's kind of convoluted in my brain. I'd have to pull it out. But yeah, there was a spirit there. Her name was Marianne. So I would talk about Marianne all the time. And I love that. And so I would talk about Marianne. And my father was very gifted. He was very spiritual. And I would be like, the ghost did that. And, it definitely was hard with my mom because I think my mom was like, this kid's just traumatized. And so I actually have a lot of great stories about Marianne. I think I'm so grateful because Marianne taught me how to not be afraid of spirits.
Mm.
And I would see people and talk to them all the time. I was like this little child and I blocked it out. Seeing was really hard for me because when the movie The Sixth Sense came out, I was I
Mm.
must have like 17 or 18, but that was the most cathartic experience for me because how he would see them, whether they were sickly or like had a burn or something, that is how I saw them. If they broke their neck or something like that, that is the vision I would see. So it was terrifying as a child. And I remember being like, I don't want to see anything anymore, but I wanted to still know they were there. So that's when my feeling developed. So as far as clairs go, I'm a feeler predominantly, then a knower, like I get that instant download, and then the seeing is the third thing. It's almost like I feel so well that I can be like, oh, the person has brown hair. Like I'm not even seeing the brown hair. I just know, and I can feel like the texture of the brown hair is going to be different than the texture of the black hair. It's very funny. And we had these people come to the house at one point that actually were related to the original owners of the house, and they stopped by and said, our I think it was like their great aunt or great grandmother or something. She was turning 100 years old and she wanted to come back to the house because she used to summer there. So my parents were like, oh my God, of course, like come spend the day. Like she just kept saying, I want to go back to the house. And so she came and they brought all this history,
Mm.
photographs, designs, original, the original blueprints, different things that their whole family had of this house that really got to answer so many questions for my mother. And there was this image that was a photograph of Marianne. And and I remember I was 7, I think, when they came to the house, these people, and I walked by in the dining room. I'm bored. I don't care that these people are at the house. Like, I want to go play with like My Little Ponies or something. And I, and I walk by and I look and I see this picture and I was like, oh, there's Marianne. And I just like point to it and I just like walk away. And my mother's like, who's that lady in the picture? And they're like, oh, that's Marianne Ely, the original owner of the house. And my mother was like, that's really weird. And, and I think she always knew that I was very intuitive. She never discouraged it, but never like really engaged with it either.
Mm.
My father was more engaging with it. We were traveling somewhere down south. I couldn't tell you where. I want to say maybe in Savannah or something. And it was probably, we went into a metaphysical store. My
Mm.
dad said to my mom, like, hey, why don't you go off, go into some boutiques? Jen and I'll poke around. We'll meet back here in, a half hour or whatever. And I wanted to go in this one store and it had to be a metaphysical store or something along those lines. And we go in and I see this wall of decks, of tarot decks and
Mm.
oracle decks. Now, it was probably a really small bookcase or a really small wall back then, but like, to me, it's like seeing this library of decks. And I just was so beyond fascinated with them. And my dad looked at me and said, you really want one of those, don't you? And I was like, yeah. And so he said, go ahead and pick one out. So he bought me my very first tarot deck, and I was about 11 years old. And I had no idea what I was doing. And I stared at those cards. I slept with those cards. I, they're bent and they're beat to hell. They are absolutely beat to hell. I actually don't read with that deck anymore. The energy is like total trash in that deck at this point. But I started giving readings to people at sleepovers when I was in middle school.
Wow.
And then in high school, I went to an all girls Catholic high school and I gave readings. I was like the witchy girl. And I did it really to piss the nuns off. Like, let's get real. Um, I was like, I'm going to be the witchy kid. And Sister Mary Elizabeth and Actually, I liked Sister Mary Elizabeth. She was great. But Sister Kathy and Sister Barbara, they can go pound sand. And so in the mornings when we would all hang out in the cafeteria, I'd be doing readings, or I was invited like literally to the cool girls parties
Mm.
because um I was the witchy girl. And I think A, they want me to do readings, and B, they were a little scared of me because there was this idea that like Jen would hex you, even though I never did. I never did any of that. But like it was this idea where like, she's a witch. Don't make her mad. And I just kind of played along with it because why not? At that point. But that was a big part of the tarot, was like my first love with divination. It really was.
Yeah, yeah, I can feel that.
But just being able to do that, and even though I was raised in a Catholic family, it's like it wasn't a big deal, right? Because of this area. Like you're used to seeing a metaphysical store, you're used to Salem, you're used to all that. So it's like it's just a different vibe versus, other parts of the country where maybe there is a metaphysical store, but it is like, don't go there. And whereas around here, it's just kind of like, oh, okay, whatever. And I remember after school, the way I learned witchcraft was there was a there was a metaphysical store, and we in our little skirts walked down because we're like, we're gonna go get tarot readings. And a bunch of us went there. We took the little local bus and we went down, and Sandy looked like something out of a movie. She was this teeny little lady with wild hair, and she was fabulous. And she actually had a shrine to Kuan Yin, the
Wow,
goddess of compassion, in the back of her store. And I remember walking up to it, and that was the first deity I kind of connected in with. I walked up, and I'd never seen this in my life. I knew nothing. I just read tarot. That was really my only experience. And I was called a witch, and I called myself a witch, but I really didn't know anything. It just was like the title. And I remember going up to the statue in this little shrine, and I just started sobbing. And I was like, and I said, I don't know who this is, but this is like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And she said, that's Kuan Yin. She told me who she was. And I was like, the who's the what's a huh? Q-tip? What? Like, I had no idea. And then she explained it to me, and she actually went out back and got me a statue that had been broken in transit, and she gifted it to me. And
wow,
I still have that. It's actually on my altar. And Sandy is no longer here on this physical plane, but she pointed one of her crooked little fingers, and she had this giant citrine that she wore in a giant
mm,
peridot. And she pointed her finger, and she's like, I am going to teach you witchcraft. And I was like, okay. And so I would go on the weekends or after school, and I would go learn witchcraft.
wow,
Yeah. And I had an altar
wow.
in my bedroom and all sorts of things. And I lit candles, and my parents were super cool about it. They were just like, okay. They were like, that's cool. You do you. So I was very fortunate to be in a household where I had that freedom.
True, true, definitely so. So as we like start to wind into the hour uh,
I
of
know,
the
because we could talk
show,
forever. We
or
could talk.
we could we could. I want you though, if you will, to um, kind of give us some food for thought in the closing tonight about everything that we've talked about, really, especially when it comes to the concepts of in, leaving ourselves open to new ideas and new possibilities, opposed to the things that we kind of uh, get fed and programmed into in our lives. Because I think a lot of our perception and concepts, things that we believe about about the area, about the ideas behind uh, the things that the area and the community there stand for. I think a lot of times those things obviously are very misrepresented. And I would like to hear from you in closing tonight some things to kind of leave us with something more, if that makes sense.
Yes, now more than ever, I think that, we touched upon in the beginning about how when we were in that lockdown situation, how we gravitated to online community, and it gifted us with so much, and it allowed, I really feel, even spirituality to blow up in a whole different way, which has been amazing, and witchcraft and everything. So, but one of the things that I think now more than ever is connecting in with a physical community of some sort. Um, and that could be at a local crystal shop, it could be at a yoga studio, it could be a nature walk group, whatever it might be, a dog park group, who knows, like whatever that is for you. And I really feel now more than ever, it's connecting in with our local communities. My father, who's passed away, he said something really smart years ago where, and it was one of those things that, like, I was a teenager, so I only half listened. And I wish I could have recorded everything that he said because it was so brilliant. Because he would just channel this stuff. And he always said, you have to, and my mother reminded me of it recently, is you have to take care of yourself first. You have to serve yourself, because you can't serve yourself. You can't serve others if you're not serving yourself, right? And we talk about it like that Ace of Cups card, if you're going into it from a tarot perspective, is you got to make sure your cup is full. You want to give people the overflow because your cup is so full, not drain yours so that then suddenly you're like, oh, I need a drop and it's bone dry. So, and I think more than ever, because our lives are so busy and chaotic, and a lot of us are entrepreneurs in a sense, right? We're healers, but we're also in that weird entrepreneurial space, whether it's even this, whether it's part-time or full-time. So it's that idea of like, we have to create content every day, and we have to do this, and we have to follow the trends, and da da da. And so it's like, go back to connecting in with yourself, and go go back to connecting in with people around you. And it's really amazing to be able to do that. And that has gifted me so much. And really encourage younger people. Younger people right now are so into exploring all these different things. So give them a space. One of the biggest things that actually a good dear friend of mine, Justin Gagney, his business is called The Saving Light. He actually he and I do a lot together, and a big thing that he and I really stand by is like letting kids come to the events for free. And same thing, if you're a college student or whatever, like, and you don't have the ability to pay, like, just show up. Just show up. I love you too. And I'm gonna see you drumming tomorrow, Sabrina. And so it's just one of those things that really look at the community and really look and study the land, the area that you're in. And just and it doesn't have to be the history. I mean, if you want to really dive into the history, that's wonderful. And so we do love Justin. And but it's look at the history. If you're not a history person and you're like, oh my God, that bores me to tears, then find another aspect to learn about, whether it's the nature. Just be curious, right? Like, really allow yourself to be curious. And it can be scary putting ourselves in these positions, going to these events randomly, not knowing anybody, whether it's a meditation or a sound healing or a fire walk. But put yourself out there, trust yourself, trust the nudges. And when you go somewhere new too, especially if you're a practitioner, and a magical practitioner, do some research on what is out there. And one of the biggest things that I've learned, particularly from the Native community, that I've really tried to embrace as much as I possibly can, is that idea of consumerism with the land. And
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, if I see a pine tree, could I gather 10 branches? Sure, I could. Do I need 10 branches? Do I only need a handful of needles? It's one of those things where, same thing, if you a lot of it is asking. It's really asking. It's if you find a feather, is it really meant for you? Are you meant to collect every stone you're attracted to on the beach, or are you just supposed to sit with a couple and leave them there? And yeah, find people, find your family. I mean, I have an entire family now just from fire walking. And I
Mhm.
gained like 15 more people because I did an advanced firewalk training where now I have the title of Master Firewalk Facilitator. And I actually now have the credentials to be able to train additional firewalk facilitators. And yeah, it's how Sabrina found hers. And she's part of my spiritual family. So it's step outside your comfort zone and look at the mystery. Stop and look. I had a friend of mine that's a shaman, and she would always say, you need to look up. And when I started incorporating things like that into my daily life, just looking up, it was amazing how much I saw.
Mhm.
So I think and connecting in with nature. I mean, that's huge. And when it comes to places like Salem or any place really, go in with curiosity, go in with respect, go in with curiosity, and open yourself up to the experience, whatever that may be. And and obviously, if any of you guys come to Massachusetts, hit me up. We got some really cool happenings. We got some really cool things. If anybody is interested in firewalking, no matter where you're located, if you have questions about it or like, hey, I'd love to experience that, could you recommend somebody in my area? Please hit me up. I have a whole network of people. So if that's something that you're interested in exploring, definitely let me know. And I'm happy to connect you with people in your area that can help maybe get you to a firewalk to experience that. Do I have a couch? I definitely do have a couch. I actually even have a spare bedroom. So, but I think
Wow.
too, and go to retreats. I host retreats and they're amazing. That's a new adventure that I started last year and it's really amazing. I have another one coming up in the fall. It's a 3-day. It's going to be for women or those that identify as women. And I have 2 incredible co-facilitators and it's going to be really powerful. And just know that you're worth it. You're worth the time. You're worth the energy. The energies of the world right now don't necessarily make you feel that way a lot. And I know we're all navigating these new situations daily. And um, know that, and if you are, another big part of finding local community too is supporting the people. I recently had an experience where I had a really severe spider bite back in November. I had a brown recluse bite that is really rare for up here. And there was a lot of past lives and stuff attached to it. It was a whole weird thing. It was right before I went for my firewalk training. It was wild. Anyway, the point is that because I've taken the time to show up as not only a practitioner in my community, but as Jen Sullivan, the person that's a hot ass mess, that's crying her brains out, that's going, I don't know what's wrong with the world. And I'm just honest and authentic in those settings. People resonate with that because they realize, like, yeah, we're all on the same level. I don't want to be put up on a pedestal. I am no flipping guru. Believe me. I don't want to be
So
known as
well.
one. I don't want to be known as whatever. I am a person here on a journey just like everybody else. And we all connected and we all help each other on that journey, right? So, find your community, both online and in person, and know that when you nurture that and showing up for yourself, they will show up for you. When I was in the hospital for those 8 days, everyone came out of the woodwork. I had people sending me Reiki. I had people being like, we're going to do an egg reading for you. We're going to do this. Like, I had more people showing up for me. I had a shamanic practitioner she had just had surgery, but she was like, I'm going to get a ride. And I don't care if someone has to wheel me down the hall. I will be banging a drum. And I'm like, girl, it's okay. Take it down a notch. But it's like, I had people lighting candles for me. I had people calling me. I had Taylor showing up and taking care of my whole house. Hey Taylor, here's my whole house and my cats. Figure it out. By the way, deal with the snow and whatever else is happening too. So it's just that idea of I was okay. My family, a lot of them live in different areas, and my mother lives down in Florida for almost at least 6 months of the year. So she was already down there, and I kept saying to her, "You don't have to worry about anything." I said, "I have a million people showing up for me." So therefore, and I didn't go into the community for that reason. I went for myself. I went for my own healing. But what it is
Right.
giving back to me is just, I can't even describe it. I can't even describe it. And
Mm.
everyone has taught me and gifted me with so much. And I just can't, like, I'm going to get super emotional about it
Wow.
because it's everything to me.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds very impactful. And I really appreciate your sharing tonight. Um,
And if you get to
so,
go to Salem, go to Salem. It's super fun.
right,
Highly
definitely.
recommend like September because it is gorgeous and the leaves are changing. Um, but and I mean, yeah, if you want to experience the October crazy, go for it. But I'm just saying, if you want me to guide you through, I ain't going in October. We can go in September, we can go in November, or during the summer or something, but not during October. I will not be your personal guide then.
Right, right, for all kinds of reasons. Well, I definitely thank you for coming on tonight. I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us and really opening our eyes to the area and to the people in the community because I think a lot of times all of that gets passed over for a lot of the glamour and glitz that we get thrown at us from just the media and the industry itself. So I really appreciate that. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing with us tonight.
Yes. And the one other thing that I just want to circle back on, I don't know if Pam's still here or not, but
Mhm.
there was a question in regards to not burning your feet. And I do want to kind of answer that quickly when it comes to fire walking is, you're in such a state at that point. Like I said, we lead you through a lot of experiences, get you to that place, and you are ready to walk. And if you're not ready to walk, us as facilitators will probably tell you or gently nudge you to take a step back and, maybe get yourself in a different space. One of us might assist you with that, and make sure that you are ready. And you can receive burns. I mean, it's fire. We're all magical. Don't get us wrong, but like, it is real fire and it's real hot coals. However, most people, if anything, they might get like a tiny little mark on their feet. And what you would do, it's not a burn, it's just, we call them kisses. We refer to them as kisses in the industry. And what it is that you can actually look at where it's located on your foot and use a reflexology chart. And I always at my firewalks email a reflexology chart and also print one out and give it to you to take home. And you can look at where the correspondence is on your foot, and it might show you like,
Hmm.
um, my liver and my kidneys were like literally the spaces, because I went right from the hospital being on IV antibiotics, the whole 9 yards, to going to a firewalk training. And the first night I got kisses, and it was where my kidneys and my liver were. And you know
Hmm.
why? Because I was detoxing. I was
Hmm.
detoxing from being on IVs and antibiotics for 10 days. And
Hmm.
I knew that. So what did I do? I drank a lot of water. I put more lemon in. So, or it could be a chakra point too, where it could be the heart chakra. It could be a lot of different places where you're like, yeah, that is something that I'm working on right now, or the throat or whatever. So, and most times if you do actually receive any kind of a burn, so to speak, it's really acknowledging what it was about. Did you walk with ego? Were you not ready? Did you lose your balance a little bit, so you put more weight? I mean, there's actual physics involved here too. This is there's a lot of mystical and magical about it, but there's science, that is a thing. And if you're putting all the pressure on one foot and not the other, probably that foot, since it might get burned compared to the other one or whatever. If you're just standing there for an extended period of time versus walking, that could be a thing. But if you do receive a burn, a lot of times it's the acknowledgement around what it is, whether it's something physical, whether it's something you asked to transmute. If you're asking for something really huge to be significantly altered in your life, clearing like an ancestral cord, something along those lines, it might kind of be a little bit of an exchange. But usually you acknowledge it. You might have to throw a little bit of Neosporin on with a Band-Aid, and that's about it. I mean, it's really not. I've seen people, not at my firewalks, but at others, where they might get a slight burn, but they still say it was the best experience they ever had. So it's like, it doesn't even matter to them. I mean, and we're not talking like third-degree burns or anything like that. We're talking like minuscule, you know, very minuscule. But there is always a risk. There is.
Right, right. I would definitely think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a risk when we light a million candles as witches on our altar. We could burn ourselves. I mean, how many times have we seen candles that have a ton of oil and a lot of herbs on them? And we go, maybe I should burn this outside. You're like, maybe I should stick that in a big cauldron and, or some larger container versus like having it on my wooden altar area.
Right,
I mean, we've all been there. So, and a thing too that honor the people in the areas, particularly obviously the indigenous communities, and also from various traditions, particularly like the ATR traditions, things like that. Be respectful, but also don't put anybody on a pedestal. Like, ask questions, gain knowledge, but also use your best judgment. Use your intuition, use your connection to God, spirit, deities that you're working with, primordial beings, whatever it is, nature, whatever it is that you yourself connect into.
right. Definitely so. Definitely so. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate you coming on tonight.
I appreciate you so much, and I am so thrilled that we had the opportunity to do this. And thank you so much for inviting me.
Right.
And it's been amazing. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to TikTok, because like I got to make some super cool, authentic connections with it. So,
Absolutely.
so I'm
Oh, thank
thrilled and
you.
honored, and I'm really excited. And I mean, tonight a bunch of people showed up that were in my community. So it just goes to show
Right.
we all support each other. And
Right.
so support each other in any way possible, especially during these times. And if you ever need somebody to just listen, hit me up.
Definitely so. Definitely so. I'm going to go on and round out the show for the night, but I do want you to stick around for a moment. Uh, and I'll catch you backstage in just a moment, okay?
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. All right, there you have it, guys. Wow. So I got to tell you, like, just the energy of being able to learn and appreciate the difference in an area that is so misunderstood for so many reasons is very refreshing. And I appreciate and love Jennifer for coming on to the show tonight and giving us some really good, clear insight into things that we normally don't get to hear or see or talk about. And I think it's a very loving thing that we get a chance to hear some truth spoken about Salem, about the area, about the people, and the communities there, and I really appreciate that. Um, I really want you guys to know I love and appreciate you all. Thank you very much for your support, your kindness, and again, I want to encourage you guys to go check out magicaljourney.com, the website. Um, if you are on Facebook, drop into Magical Journeys group, which talks a lot. I'll be talking a lot about the different things going on here on the channel. We'll be sharing some more information about topics that we're covering on here. And of course, as you know, I know it's not for everybody, and I've said that before, but there's also the Patreon site, which definitely gives you a lot of insight and a lot of information on topics that we cover here. So definitely check those things out. And just know that you are loved and appreciated, and always may your journey always be magical.
I've waited for so long to see when you come back to me. Through the wars and battles that were lost, we're born again, it's you and me. The rest is history. Past lives. Past lives. We could dance together on different floors in 1500 or 1504. We must have been lovers. We must have been something in our past lives.